online shopping vertical for mother, baby, and child product. We are the largest in the region. We're a 4-year-old brand. We have over 100,000 products on the website, so we're the largest catalog of mother, baby, and child products in the region. We have over 650,000 mothers in our database, which is again the largest database of mothers in the region under one umbrella. And essentially our vision is very simple, and that is to make a mother's life easier, to empower her to make the most informed purchase decisions for her children. We do this by giving her access to the widest choice of products, one, giving her transparent pricing information and product information, and we deliver to her house within 2 to 3 days, conveniently and cost effectively.
How long ago did you start?
We started in November of 2011.
Post-crisis, and then you actually clicked in then. What motivated you to do that, even though things are a little tough around here?
So I'll answer that question two ways. When you start a business that is driven by a missing need in the market, you typically don't look at crisis or non-crisis or really how the market. You're driven by there's a need out there that's missing, and I'm going to go there and fix that pain point. 15 years ago with Bait.com, if I may just share that. So I was working in Zurich at the time with Johnson & Johnson. I was in brand management. I had a fantastic job, in my opinion, back there, very comfortable. I had an office overlooking the Alps. I would walk into the office with the smell of fresh coffee, and I would say, Alhamdulillah, thank you, God, you have blessed me with this wonderful opportunity. And one fateful afternoon, I get a phone call from my brother. And Rabia had just sold his records management company. So he had exited his business successfully, and he said, I have a brilliant idea. I'm going to revolutionize recruitment in the Arab world, and I'm going to build the first online recruitment website. 15 years ago, that was inconceivable. 15 years ago, you ask a job seeker, a professional, or an employer to put a CV online and to search, people would tell you you're crazy. Similarly, 2% was the penetration of online 15 years ago, and there was an internet bust. So anybody who had made money online had very quickly run away from the online industry because it was on a rock bottom. But we fundamentally believed in the positive social impact that a brand like Bait would make for the Middle East region. And driven by that pain point, and the pain point was very simple. The pain point, there were a lot of very smart, successful Middle Easterners leaving the region and not coming back because they thought they couldn't find the right opportunities. What we wanted to do is to change that. We said, all of these fantastic Middle Easterners, Arabs who were leaving the region, we want to give them a faster, easier, more effective way to connect back to the region and have the employers also connect to great talent. And that's what we did in 2000, and Bait became a profitable business within 9 months of its starting. So the answer, I think the long-winded answer to your question is, even with Mum's World, I, as a consumer, had a pain point. As a mother, I was not empowered. I had 3 children. I didn't feel that I was making the right choices for them. As a mother, you want to be the best mother you can be. And I always felt that I was shortchanging my children. And so the consumer need was a missing one, and I felt that it was time to address that, and that's why we launched it.
Brilliant. Now, it seems that retail in our business, in our part of the world, and especially malls and so on, it seems that shopping is a national sport. And actually physical shopping is something people do. Did you feel any kind of cultural resistance in that process where people say, well, I'll just go to a shop and buy it from there. Why would I like to do it online? Because people here are very tactile and connected. What were the challenges there? So
here are some numbers. Here are some stats. 66%, according to Nielsen, of mothers in the Middle East, and that's an even higher number in Saudi Arabia, are actually researching their kids' products online before they buy them. So a mother who's about to have a baby is online researching what are the best strollers out there? What are the best car seats out there? What do I, as a mother, have to do to prepare myself for the child? So, are there any mothers in the audience here? Can I have a show of hands for mothers in the audience? Okay, wonderful. So, of these mothers, do any of you not research your products online? Do all of you research your products online? So we have a unanimous yes. So there are certain verticals where the tactile feel is certainly very important. With the vertical of mother, baby, and child, where you want to compare, contrast, and make sure that you are buying the best through research and through reviews, online becomes very powerful.
May I ask the mothers the question? Yes, you do the research online, but as a general, on a general basis, do you actually buy online, or would you rather go to the Dubai Mall or Emirates Mall and buy? Ma'am, can we have a mic, please? Because I think it'd be interesting to get a mother's perspective, and then we can activate that.
It actually depends, because if there are items that don't require sizing and stuff like that, yes, we would buy online. But if it's clothes and stuff like that, we wouldn't, because you want to fit it and see, because invariably you choose the wrong size. You make a mistake.
So stay with me, and I'll involve the other mother here also, because we don't have any kids, so you know it's mom's world. So we'll just be allowed with that. 7 and 13, and yours, madam? How old are your kids?
Just turned 15.
Just turned?
15 years old.
15, you look too young for 15, but anyway, please go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I do purchase because nowadays is more on internet and everything. The gadgets, as I prefer to do it online. So it's more preferable for us to just do it online because, you know, as a working mother, you don't have time anymore to go out with your kids sometimes. Or it's because in my case, my son is back home, so I'd rather to send it there direct.
Now, with your 13-year-old and your 7-year-old, they probably have a smartphone. And they probably are quite smart already and are able to make their choices. Yes. What do you feel as a mother that mumsworld.com is selling away online to your children because they have a portal, a segment which is 5 to 12 years old? How would you feel about that? Are they selling too hard to your kid?
Yes, it is.
And do you find that that's okay, ethically?
Yes, it is.
You're okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, fine. Are you okay with that? No, you're not.
So we actually don't target kids. So that's very important. So we do have a section for 5 to 12-year-olds, but you also need a credit card that's viable in order to shop, and cash on delivery, you know, not from Tara Al-Alami, who's 7 years old. So e-commerce is a $1.6 trillion industry globally. It's growing at 29% compounded annual growth rate annually. It's the fastest trend of the decade. There's no escape e-commerce. And the reason is today's consumer has changed. We have a consumer who's demanding convenience, demanding transparency in both pricing and information, and says, you know what, I don't have time to move from shop to shop, mall to mall, to find the right product for me. What we offer as a mums or as a marketplace is we say to the mother, okay, you can go onto the website, you have 100,000 products at your fingertips. You can compare and contrast prices, descriptions, brands, and they will be delivered to your home within 2 days, free of charge. And guess what? If you don't like it for whatever reason, we will pick it up, exchange it, return it, refund it. It's a zero-risk experience. And for today's consumer who's demanding that, because everybody is very busy, and the busiest consumer out there, by the way, is not the working mother like me and you. The busiest consumer is the mother who's sitting at home. That's a fact. Because she's juggling her home, she's juggling her kids, she's juggling the school runs, and a million other things. So that's essentially the pain point that we're trying to solve. Now, our model as Mums World is new to the region. We are very lucky, and I think this is very important for a startup to have the first mover advantage, because there are a lot of advantages to being the first mover. But certainly this is not a new proposition. So diapers.com launched in the United States, sold to Amazon for $540 million. Windeln.com in Germany just IPO'd for $2 billion. Baby Oil and First Cry in India. Zulily just IPO'd for $2.5 billion, and they just sold again. So it's a concept that globally, from India to Brazil to the United States, is doing phenomenally well, because the mother consumer, no matter where she is around the world, is the same consumer, and her needs are exactly the same. She wants to raise her kids in the best possible way, and she wants to do it easier, and that's what we're here to do.
As you can see, Mona is highly skilled with numbers, finance background, and we will turn this almost into a masterclass on entrepreneurship with your permission. But before we do that, can we see, by show of hands, the people who are entrepreneurs in this audience, people who run their own businesses? About 30%, 40%? Would you accept that? Okay. So what the kind of questions I'd like to ask her, which probably address some of your day-to-day issues, is growth and scale. But before I get to growth and scale, you set it up in 2011, and you came through from Bait.com. You actually had a lead, you had an advantage because you understood technology, you had that ecosystem around you. Has that served you and protected you and de-risked you, other than a lot of the people who don't have that? And how do you address that challenge with the people who don't have that?
So when I started Bait 15 years ago, and I came from a traditional FMCG background, both with Procter & Gamble and Johnson & Johnson, I knew nothing about technology, nothing. In fact, I was so bad when it came to technology. I remember once at Procter & Gamble, they had this button at the emails where you could send it to your manager, another button next to it where you can send it to your team, and a third button to the right of that where you can send it to all 7,000 people sitting in the P&G office in Cincinnati. And invariably, I would press that button on the extreme right, and my emails would go to 7,000 people in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's how bad I was. And when I came and I joined Bait.com, knowing nothing about technology, I didn't know how, you build a recruitment site where people build CVs and keep them confidential, and the payment gateways, etc. That was all alien to me. So it was all about that crash course of resourcefulness. What is it that I need to learn now, heading the marketing and business development of Bait.com, that is going to make this business a success? Fast forward 15 years later with Mom's World, and my son asked me this question yesterday, interestingly enough. He goes, "Mom, when did you learn about retail? How long have you known about how retail operates and operations and supply chain?" And I say, "Actually, Mom, the first time I taught myself about retail was in October 2011 when I launched Mom's World." So the reality is, your hard skills are easy to learn. Supply chain, logistics, you look for gold standards, you learn how gold standards work around the world, and you improve them. That's what you do. What supply chain in online e-commerce works in the United States? What can I learn from that? And now how can I improve it? What operations flow works in Brazil? What can I learn and how can I improve it? So that's the first part. The second part, and again, we talked about this, as part of a startup, the technical skills, the functional skills, I think are 10% of the journey, of the success journey. 90% of the journey to success is far more than the technical skills. The first one is this notion of your vision. Because a startup is so difficult, and for all of you who have SMEs here, I'm sure you know this, and if anybody doesn't agree, please, I want to meet you afterwards. But starting up a business is probably the single most difficult thing you're ever going to do. And particularly in a market or in an industry that's underdeveloped. So your vision has to be so clear to you. Your passion for your business, your drive for your vision has to be so strong that every day when you face these challenges, you say, it doesn't matter, I see that vision, I'm going to go for it. And it's not motivation. Motivation dies. It's drive. It's the vision that I'm going to get to. That's the first thing. The second thing, and we've all heard it, is this notion of grit. You're in it for the long term. When the investor laughs at you, when your pitch deck gets thrown in the bin, when your employees come and go and the turnover is high, what keeps you going? It's that thing called grit. It's that longevity. It's that ability to have a thick skin. which is more important than your hard skills. And then lastly, and very importantly, surround yourself with great people. So for me, I've been very blessed, both with Bait and with Mum's World, to be surrounded with super smart, super talented people. I have weak points. When I joined Bait, my weak point was technology, but we had a fantastic head of technology. At Mum's World, I have a lot, operation-wise, I didn't understand anything about operations for e-commerce, but our head of operations was brilliant. So my weakness was shielded by his strengths. And that's essentially what it's all about. It's about building a team of strength and people who complement each other, because no one person has all the answers. And any one person who thinks they have all the answers will discover very quickly that that's not the case.
You mentioned that you were blessed with your team. I would probably compliment you on that. I think your blessings were because you were very smart, because I have built teams many, many times. It's one of the toughest things that you do. So when you are building your team, what are the key attributes that you're looking for in that person? When you look in their eyes, what do you see? Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, including myself, the mistakes that I have made is I love to hire people that I like, as opposed to hire people who are best for the job. And I think we are all human beings, and we end up making that mistake. What is your advice to the SMEs and to the entrepreneurs in terms of building teams and selection processes?
I think that's a very interesting thing you said about hiring people that you like. I actually was told a few years ago that you don't have to like everyone in your team. I don't believe that. I think if you don't like a person, you can't work with them. The first thing for me is this notion of, again, the passion. So when you're sitting with a person and you share the vision of your business in 10 years and you say, we're here to empower mothers to make the most informed purchase decision. We're here to be the #1 mother, baby, and child e-commerce company in the region. And we're going to get there doing X, Y, and Z. And if you look at that person in the eye and they have that passion, they have that drive, that's the first thing. And if they don't, they're never going to go that extra mile. The second thing is this element of excellence. And this is really, really important. What is excellence? Excellence is about doing things that are unique, doing things that are better than others, and doing things that others don't want to do. And that's really important. So the customer care person who picks up the phone and a mother is screaming because her order is late, a customer care who reacts with excellence is someone who understands, who is proactive, who is empathetic, and is able to think quickly. So that's what it's about. So we look for people who believe in this element of excellence and going the extra mile. Skill sets in e-commerce are hard to find because e-commerce in this part of the world is new. In fact, e-commerce globally is new. So finding someone who's a super duper SEO expert in Dubai, I might get him, I'll pay a lot of money for him, and guess what? He's going to be poached by my competitors in 6 weeks. So it's better to get someone who's junior, who has the other values, and basically train them from the ground up.
E-commerce is not a very sexy business when you just look at the numbers. It takes you anywhere between 1 to 3 years to even be cash positive. So it's actually not an obvious business to get into. Would I be right in assuming that, or it's a tough business?
So the analogy I put with e-commerce is the following. A lot of people think, I have a product, I go and I pay $5,000 and I create a website, I put the product on the website, and woe and behold, it sells. That's not what happens. What happens is your website has to speak to your customer just as your store merchandiser or retailer speaks to the customer. So your website has to have multi-dimensions.